This is a tattooed monk of the Dragon Clan. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but what led me to make this video was derived sort of from him, so he gets the spotlight. What we're talking about in this video is set pieces. What are set pieces? It's a stupid name that I'm going to use for the sandbox game to describe locations that are meant for delving. In a sandbox game, you need to have places where players go out and sort of adventure through this dungeon, and then they get as far as they can go before they exhaust themselves, or wisely decide to turn back and go rest in town and then head out on another foray the next time. So what I'm calling set pieces are places like the Hoach, places like Trokair, places like the Dwarven Fortress in the mountains, where no party could dream of clearing out the entire dungeon in one go. It's a dungeon with multiple levels, a dungeon that's more expansive, where they need to take these multiple trips if they want to ever have a hope of exploring all of it. And of course, set pieces like this can have places where they can't get to at certain levels and they're forced to come back. But I'm specifically not thinking of a place where you can go and clear out part of it, but then there's a door you can't get through because you're not high enough level to have the spell you need to get through it, and then you come back and clear out more. That's not really the set piece thing that I'm going for. A set piece will discourage PCs from going further than they can handle by the fact that they can't handle it. They'll head down the stairs, they're third level, they think they're all that, and then there's a troll wandering the halls, and they're like, oh, we better get the hell out of here right now. And just ask my players about the troll that totally destroyed them. Not all of my players, just two of them. They got completely destroyed by a troll. Not germane to the discussion. I love the word germane right now. So set pieces are those places that are like established dungeons. They're places that people are going to return to over and over and over again because there's just so much to explore there. Then you have to have more than set pieces, though. Everything I've been thinking about currently for the sandbox game has pretty much been set pieces. The Hoach, Trokair, where I plan to have multiple levels in the dungeon so that they can go and keep going further and further as they explore. And these dungeons are going to have lots of rooms and what have you. You also need to have non-set pieces, and which is why I don't like the word set piece to describe it, but that's what has fixed itself in my brain. Sometimes you need to have a dungeon that they can go and clear out in one session. The Goblin Warrens. Maybe the Goblin Warrens is, a couple rooms underground and there's a bunch of goblins and traps and what have you in it. But, one gaming session, they can get all the way to the end of the thing, kill all of the goblins and then head out. Maybe it's just one of the, Goblin Warrens in the area, but at least they cleared that one out. Then you also have to have random encounters. Random encounters do a great thing for the sandbox style game world. They offer a little bit extra challenge and conflict in a game, such that the PCs aren't always heading off on a direction in the wilderness and encountering a dungeon you've already planned out and placed there. You have to make the world itself a dangerous place. So after they travel so far or for so long, you go ahead and roll some dice, see if a random monster shows up. Random monsters get to have their own little, very mini dungeons. These are dungeons that basically last one fight. So maybe the PCs are traveling through the woods and you roll up that they encounter a giant spider. Or multiple giant spiders, because it depends on how many show up in a group. Rather than just say, you're walking along the road and then this troop of giant spiders starts, is walking towards you in the other direction. That would be incredibly funny, and that would freak the crap out of me if I ever saw that. But what it is instead is you would make up a quick little dungeon, and by dungeon I just mean a clearing with a little bit of terrain and everything, and then there's these giant spiders that pop out of the trees, and attack the PCs that are standing in the back, or they walk into a web if they don't make a good enough spot check. And you just make it a little, and it's an encounter, but you just add a little bit more to it rather than just plop down a map and say, here it goes. Try to flesh it out a bit, and it adds a little bit more depth to the world. But you do want to avoid making the PCs think that a random encounter is more important than it actually is. Most of the times in the sandbox game, since you're rolling in the open, they know it's a random encounter, and so they're not going to waste their time thinking that it was something extra spectacular. On the other hand, sometimes maybe you want them to think that it's something special, or maybe you suddenly get an idea. I wonder if you heard that snap. Maybe you suddenly get an idea and you decide, hey, I can make, a bigger dungeon out of this, and then do so immediately if you have that kind of, super special creative power. I don't think I do. But if you do, feel free. Make that little extra dungeon. And now you've suddenly fleshed out your world a little bit more. Here's a dungeon that you had never expected to place there, and now you've got one. Specifically, what made me think of this, not this guy, I'll get to him in another video, was the spider. I had this thought, you're wandering through the woods and you encounter a spider, and little things like that click in my mind and say, hey, guess what? You're stupid. Why didn't you think of this before? And so for me, this is a really big revelatory moment. For other people who play D&D, it's like, yeah, duh, that's the way things work. And for other people, they're like, why haven't you uploaded the video explaining what D&D is yet? And I say, because I'm stupid. I guess I'll cover that in another video too. Alright, I've lined work up for myself. So yeah, I guess I have to come up with a better classification system, and since I have a little bit of time left, there are those three separate sets of dungeons. There's wandering monster encounters, which are easy enough to just call wandering monsters or encounters. They don't have to be a wandering monster to set up just a short encounter along the road. You could have an ogre that guards a bridge, and it could be nothing more than that except to know that there is an ogre that guards that bridge all the time. Who would travel over the bridge? Who knows? He's an ogre. He just doesn't need a reason. There's a bridge. Why not guard it? Then there are your one session or maybe two session dungeons, the short dungeons. And then there are your mega dungeons that people delve into again and again and again. And I suppose I should also mention in this video, since we're talking about it, there needs to be interconnectedness between dungeons or something. PCs should not encounter every dungeon they encounter through blindly wandering through the wilderness. At least, to a certain degree, you have to leave clues in one dungeon about the location or existence of another dungeon. It just helps the world feel a little bit more connected. You want it to be a smaller world. It's a small world after all, but you don't want it to be too small. You don't want all of the dungeons fitting together so nice and neat that it's like the world just collapses down and they're like, damn, everything is too, set up here. It doesn't feel real. So that's a point of balance, and we'll figure that out. And I mean, encounters are a good way to do that. That ogre guarding the bridge might have something on him that leads to... He might have a treasure map or something that leads to another dungeon across that bridge somewhere, so that you don't have to wander around the wilderness to find it. You have a little bit of a pointer there. Alright, video is long enough. Stopping. Bye-bye.